Hello and welcome to an Arena FPS quick discussion video on Quake Champions, a brand new release that got shown off at E3 2016 from Bethesda, or Bethesda. Just a quick introduction for those of you that might be watching this that don't know us. We are an Arena FPS focused channel and we do mostly tournament action and quite regular news catch-ups. So if you're interested in these kind of games and you've not seen us before, please do check us out. All the information for cups, which are plenty of. ZLive do 125 FPS Cup, which is a really quite popular Quake Live Cup every Sunday. If you want to watch any of that, just check it out on the subreddit. It's all there. Now, the actual Quake Champions announcement. It was fairly well received, but there was a lot of negative response. I mean, a lot of people are excited about it, but there was a lot of negative response about what was in the trailer, is what I feel. Like, people cared enough to actually respond negatively. It's better that people hate it than just no one gives a fuck and people ignored it.
That's right? A very optimistic outlook.
Yeah, I think so. So essentially, the controversy was in Quake 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and Live, if you want to talk about all the Quake games. The emphasis was really always been on, you start naked with just a machine gun or a different weapon and a gauntlet or an axe or whatever, and then you pick up items around the map, and everyone starts on the same footing essentially. But with this game, they've introduced champions, and they have abilities. We know that whether they start with different weapons, we have no idea.
But it does look like it.
Possibly.
Weapons seem to be tied to the characters, so it's possible that's how they're going to go.
Yeah, it's hard to say. So this has really caused a lot of people to be quite angry at the trailer, because they see Quake as a game where there's no loadouts. There's a lot of negative response to the Quake Live loadouts happened, and for the same reason, Doom has been really panned by the just general gaming public as well as the Arena FPS fans as well. I can kind of see why they're trying to introduce champions or heroes or whatever you want to call them, because it is very popular at the moment. And one of the biggest things that Quake and Arena FPS games have done really poorly is create iconic characters that you can really kind of identify with and enjoy playing for the reason that you want to look like that, you want to be that person. That's something that Overwatch has really capitalized on, and I think it's one of its greatest strengths, the character design. I mean, there's porn made of Overwatch, so it's
Quake porn. Quake 2017.
Porn. Yeah, little ninks. But yeah, I mean, it's really a clash of design philosophy from the previous games to this one, which is causing the public outcry. But I don't think
it's kind of like they're trying to merge two worlds.
Yeah,
so they've already got this ship full of diehard Quake fans, like the people that are left, and they kind of have to, not piss them off too much, as well as pleasing the new players and bringing people in, because it's not a lot of people in Quake, so you kind of got to make them get along.
Yeah, and it could really kind of go in two directions, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Quickly, what we'll first go over is the actual features of the game. So there was a trailer, and also Tim Willits had an interview and talked a little bit about it. And these notes are from plusforward.net, I believe. It's a Arena FPS news website. So it's going to be PC only, it's going to be multiplayer only, and it's going to be targeted for 120 hertz monitors, which also he said there's unlocked FPS, so it's not just limited to that. There's going to be fast-paced movement with strafe jumping, rocket jumping, and he says a ledge bob up, and that could possibly, we were thinking it might mean the jump pad.
Yeah, because it seems weird the way he described it. I don't think it means a ramp jump or a ledge grab.
Yeah, it could possibly be a double jump or a ledge grab, but it's probably just the jump pad. There's going to be different characters with different abilities, and Bethesda is going to be supporting tournaments beyond QuakeCon alone. So it sounds like they're really going for an esports scene and really going to be pushing hard the competitive mode and the competitive side of things, which is really exciting for us.
I mean, a lot of that list is really good. I never could have hoped for a PC-only, multiplayer-only, unlocked FPS Quake game. I really thought they were going to consolize it somehow, and we're going to have to make do with something else.
Yeah, we were discussing, a lot of people discussing the possibility of a new Quake game, and we were kind of thinking it's going to probably be a Doom multiplayer style thing where it's multi-platform, and there's a lot of things that are held back from the PC audience for the sake of casualizing it to a console audience. So, I mean, those things are really exciting.
Moving on to some observations from the trailer. Ranger picked up an LG, so LG's a thing, and rocket launcher, rail, all that stuff was in there. And because he picked it up, that means that Well, it doesn't mean it, but hopefully it means that we're not limited to just loadouts. It might mean that you can pick up dead weapons, or you can pick up weapons from weapon pickup spawns. Ranger, Visor, Nyx, and Scalebearer in the game. So people who play Quake will know Ranger and Visor. Nyx and Scalebearer seem to be new. Nyx is like a blue-haired woman who zips around the place. Scalebearer is like a massive beefcake with a rocket launcher. Different sized models might mean different sized hitboxes. We don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say with the cinematic trailer, like what the model scaling is. It might be more emphasized for the trailer, and it might be that all pretty much the same size and they have the same hitbox for the actual game itself. Like in Quake 3, like the models do look different sizes to each other in some cases. Like Orb looks different to Kill, for example, but they do have the same actual hitbox.
Yeah, like compare Bones to Tank Junior.
Yeah, exactly. There's also some weapons shown in the trailer. So there's a shotgun, which is at the beginning, looks quite similar to the Quake 3 one. Lightning gun, I really like the model for this. I think you're saying the same.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Railgun, I can give or take it. It looks all right. There's a rocket launcher, which I really like the look of. It looks very much styled like the Quake 3 one.
Yeah, like a mod. Because when you look at the Quake 3 one, even though we all love it because it's nostalgic, if you saw it now for the first time, you might think that looks a bit shite. But they managed to take the classic style of it and sort of modernize it a little bit. I really like it.
Yeah,
probably one of my favorites.
And there was a machine gun style weapon. It kind of looks like the heavy machine gun from Quake Live that they introduced about a couple of years ago, I think, in one of those updates. I think it was the loadout update.
Yeah, I think it was.
And then finally, there's a gauntlet right at the end, which was being used by Visor. So there was also abilities showcased in the teaser trailer. Visor had some kind of wall hack or heat like ability, heat vision, I guess. There was some kind of charge from Scalebearer. It was described as Dire Orb, teleport from Ranger, and like some kind of phase ability from Nyx, where she kind of phased out and couldn't get damaged. And the map, a lot of people are saying it looks like campgrounds. There's definitely some similarities with where the jump pad and the pillars are positioned, and it would make sense for it to be campgrounds because it's a very iconic Quake 3 map. And
so the abilities are kind of an important discussion point because this is where all the controversy is. This is where people are getting upset that the game's turning into Overwatch and things like that. And I think first of all, we have to understand that we have only seen 4 abilities. We don't know if there's more. We don't know how much they're going to change. We don't know what's going to be shown at QuakeCon. But from the ones that we've seen so far, it doesn't look like they're that powerful. Total Biscuit did a video recently talking about Lawbreakers and comparing it to Overwatch and talking about how Overwatch has this kind of rock, paper, scissors style where certain heroes can automatically just kill other heroes if they encounter each other. Whereas Lawbreakers seems to be a bit different and the abilities are a bit more, everyone seems to have a chance against each character. This kind of seems closer to that just based on the abilities that we've seen. Like you're not going to be wiping out people just because you can teleport, or you're not just going to be getting kills because you can have a wall hack. You're still going to have to move to them using strafe jumping. You're still going to have to kill them with your weapons.
Yeah, and I think that really comes down to the crux of the argument of whether this is going to be more of a hero shooter or more of a classic deathmatch style game, but with heroes in it. I really hope it's the latter of the two, and it's kind of hard to say for sure right now with the information we have what it's going to look like. But I think even in a dual game, if the Visor wall hack is a very limited in its use, and maybe you have to pick up energy which you have to control on the map, similar to armor and health, in order to power that ability. I don't think that would be as like imbalanced as like something like, I don't know, Tracer's ult or anything you see in any of these proper hero shooters, where it is very much rock, paper, scissors, like a certain class is designed to beat another class. So I think if it's balanced around 1v1, whether that's in like a free-for-all or where there's 10 people, where you might be in 1v1 situations, or even if you're in a 1v1 fight in a CTF engagement, I think any class should be able to beat any other class, but the ability should give you a very temporary and a very kind of understated advantage. And I don't think that's a problem. I think that could be a really interesting change to the dual meta, and it could really improve it, actually.
It really depends on implementation. We had this with Doom as well when we saw all the things that were coming out for Doom multiplayer, and it was like, if they do this, then it'll be a great game. If they do this, then it'll be a bit shit. And it's kind of the same thing. Depending on how they implement this and based on what we've seen, it could go either way. They could implement this in a really cool way that I really like. They could make it just another hero shooter.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really bad for them if they do make it another hero shooter, because we've already seen most of the hero shooters being announced, and they're coming out. They're either already out, like Overwatch, Battleborn, etc., or they're going to be coming out quite soon, like Lawbreakers. I think they've got to compete with all these different games, such as Battleborn, Overwatch, Paragon, Battlecry, Gigantic, Paladins, Lawbreakers,
Gigantic.
and Dirty Bomb. There's like so many of these games that they've got to compete with, and if you look at the history where WoW came out, and then everyone tried to make an MMO and they couldn't make it because we already had one massive MMO, and same with the MOBAs, where people were making MOBAs the past year or so, and they've not been succeeding because the industry is already ingrained. All the players are playing the games that they're playing already. So I think if they try and compete with that style of gameplay, they're going to fail, and it'd be far better.
They'd also be taking an existing game with an existing fan base and trying to make it another type of game, and so they're going to lose their existing fan base and fail to get a new one.
So I think if they have heroes in there, but they're light touch and they're very much balanced against each other, kind of if you look at StarCraft 2, you were saying this earlier, like Zerg and Protoss against each other in a 1v1 scenario. That's how the game is, right? So it's not impossible to have balanced 1v1 where different races or different champions in this case have different abilities. I just think it's how they manage to do that and if they're able to do that. So
that's kind of what Diabotical planned, wasn't it?
Yeah, Diabotical kind of had this as very early on. I think that's gone now. I don't think they're going.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but they definitely did want different classes with different movement and different abilities and things, and there wasn't that many people turning their noses at it at the time.
It's all in the implementation, really, and if they implement it really well, I think it could be a fantastic game. I think Duel has to be like the competitive mode that it's balanced around, whether it's like the biggest competitive mode. I hope it is for my sake. I know a lot of people are really into like NTF and like Quake World, Enemy Territory, that all kind of stuff. But I hope that we have a really good 1v1 focus game, because that's what the Quake franchise is famous for. It's for like, you know, the fatalities and the callers and the ciphers and the raffers, all these big names in Duel, and there's no other esport which is doing 1v1 FPS Duel at the moment. And I think they could really take it to like a really popular level if they can pull this off. I think our overall response to the game is we're cautiously optimistic. Whereas
I think that's fair.
And a lot of people who are commenting on it are very negative about it. But I think you kind of have to look at it from a further back perspective that this could work. Whether they make it work, it's really up to them. And I'm sure, I think it's QuakeCon, where we get to see more information. And I expect we'll see gameplay at that point. I kind of feel this might be out sooner than expected. It's only,
there's no single player.
Yeah, I think this might be out probably not this year, but I'd imagine be like early 2017.
And there's going to be a beta phase as well, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even that would be this year.
I would imagine there'll be a closed or open beta with a lot of feedback. So I think we'll know sooner than later how it's going to look. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think, as you know, a genre that was basically dead when we made this channel, and now it's really starting to come back into fruition. I mean, Unreal Tournament's being made by Epic. We've got a new Quake from ID. We've got Diabotical about to hit Kickstarter. We've got Reflex and Toxic, and all these games are being developed with lots of little indie games as well on the horizon. I think it's the most healthy we've ever seen Arena FPS in almost a decade, to be honest.
Brings a tear to the eye.
Yeah, it really does.
I am really excited about this year and next year, though.
So let's just hope they don't mess it up. I think that's really everything I want to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that a lot of the hate it's getting is unwarranted because it's just too early, like you said. And I think there's also a lot of room in a single game to appease multiple types of fans and do multiple styles of gameplay. And I think that's a possibility. Like we have that in Quake now.
Yeah. And of course, there might even just be like a different game mode, which is called Classic. And it's just with all the abilities taken away and all the different movement, it's just strafe jumping, rocket jumping, your classic Arena FPS mode. And that's very possible. They might have that in. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a feature, but it probably won't be the main competitive mode. I would imagine they'll be pushing the main competitive mode, which they have at tournaments, as including the full character roster. So I think that's all our thoughts piled together in a neat little package. Do with them as you wish. Thanks and goodbye.